You know, it should be no surprise to anyone that I'm a huge Splatoon fan. Ever since the beginning when this game first got announced, I always loved the design of it. The characters were just so cute, and I loved the blend of the aquatic and sort of hip-hop vibe that it gave. It was very youthful, very alive, and very fresh. Of course, no pun intended. When you've played the game, you'll understand. Either way, I've been a huge fan of both games, and the design has been the main driving force of that. From the art books, to the plushies, to the amiibo, I've collected what I can of Splatoon. And now, something that I really love, Figma, has decided to make this. Figma number 400DX. This is of course the deluxe set of the Splatoon Figma. Hilariously, she is labeled the Splatoon Girl on the box, though of course we know these are Inklings. Though that could imply that maybe they'll make a Splatoon boy eventually. I would love to see Inkling boys and even Octolings later on because it would be warranted. This series is amazingly popular and I'm sure they've sold. These things have to have sold well. I've been so excited to open this figure ever since I've gotten it. I've neglected even breaking the tab on the side so that I could see the window display only because I wanted it to all be in the video, so thank you for joining me. Let's get into this thing. Of course, on the front of the box, we have an incredibly stylized picture of both figures right there on the front. This, of course, is covering the window display inside, but we have the two different versions of the Inkling that we will receive here. Yes, if you buy the DX version, you get both the orange hair and the pink-haired Inkling, one with long hair, the other with short hair, or tentacles if you really want to be technical. On top, we get to see the Inkling with the short hair with a roller and even a squid jumping out of some ink. On the side, we see the same Inkling adorned in a hat and holding the same roller she was on the top of the box. This is also just an amazing looking shot. This figure, already, I am just so excited to see it. This side, of course, shows the classic long-haired Inkling with orange hair, looking just adorable, posing with her splatter shot. This is the quintessential Inkling that you see on all the packaging, and of course, this was the most appropriate one to pack in with this. The bottom shows this same Inkling running with her splatter shot. And of course, there's plenty of paint splatters all over the box, as well as even some branding for both Splatoon 1 and 2 here. The back of the box has opted to put many posed shots of the figures on here, which looks great. It's done in a very different way, where everything's in its own little window. But of course, you get to see multiple expressions, the accessories all laid out, both Inklings, and of course, some action poses of both of them. But now I get to do something I've been wanting to do since I opened the box that this was originally in. I get to break the seal and show you the window display. Oh goodness, and as soon as we open it, we are greeted by two adorable smiling Inklings, one even giving squid fingers, which just makes me so happy. Once we open everything up, we get to see plenty of interesting art that is all over Inkopolis in the game. Very stylish looking graffiti and stickers, very street type. And of course, we get to see the window display. And honestly, this is incredibly effective. It looks wonderful in the packaging. It sucks that you have to break the seal to open it to see this, but this truly is lovely. And of course, the presentation here, I'm not questioning at all. This is a very interesting way to do this, and it is just incredibly qualitative. This box is so nice. I can't explain it through words. Of course, it looks great on camera, but even better in hand. This thing just oozes quality, and that's what I come to expect from Figma. The ink splatters all over are a great touch. We can even see some of the accessories, including the actual squids themselves, but let's open this figure up and see what it has to offer. And of course there was a backdrop behind the figures as well. Rather cute looking stuff here, almost like a very warehousey looking area. Oh, it's actually part of one of the levels. You can see a Ferris wheel in the background. Honestly, it seems like a lot when you look at the package, but there's not too much in here, which is good because I was a little overwhelmed at first. Of course, we have everything displayed here in the packaging very effectively. Everything looks great and it's packaged very safely. Of course, this is what we come to expect. And this is a double-decker display because the back will show you even more accessories inside of the back blister. And here we have them both figures out of the packaging, and at first glance they actually look spectacular. These are really nice little figures, and they are indeed a little bit smaller than your typical Figma. Let's focus first on the standard. Obviously she's a bit shorter than Rintaro Okabe here, but of course that's kind of the style of the character. She measures just about 4 inches, just shy of it, but that's fine because this character, again, is a kid and they're smaller. Though them being a kid does not affect the posability and the fact that they gave this just as much attention as any other Figma, giving it all the joints it needs to move around. One thing I will say straight out of the box, I do like the look of it. The only problem I have is with the hair. The hair is a little bit strange because it's a harder plastic than the sometimes soft kind of vinyl-y plastic they use on other girl characters with this line. But I can understand them using this because this was the best way for them to get vibrant, shiny looks like you do when you actually play Splatoon. These characters are incredibly shiny and incredibly bright. And somehow I just don't think you could get the same kind of flexible brightness out of those kinds of plastics as well. I'll give her a pass on that. The one thing that I can't forgive though is that her joint color is a far brighter shade than her actual skin tone, which kind of irritates me, but I'm not going to get too into it. The figure itself looks wonderful. The eyes are incredibly detailed, and we'll get further into that later, but they look great. The hair is shiny, and it's a good representation of the character's hair in-game. The clothing looks good. There's a little tag there at the edge of her shirt, just like in the game. Her backpack straps look nice, and of course her shorts are shorts and they have a little line on them. The shoes are what really impressed me here. They're really good looking, they're very bright, and the detail is pretty decent on those. It's a little sloppy on the shoelaces, but ultimately this is a smaller figure, so these details are a little harder to get right, though it is nice. On the back we see her ink tank is pretty good looking. I like the clear plastic with the other inside, though I will say that this green has a little bit of sloppiness to the way it's painted. But ultimately, that's pretty much everything. If you see the little decal on the back of her shirt, there's some detail there. And yeah, this figure looks pretty good. The pink one, I think, is my favorite of the two. I just like this facial expression a little bit more. She's a little deranged looking, kind of crazy. Though, the funny thing is that there's only one spare face between the two of them, so you would kind of have to trade back and forth if you didn't want her to look crazy, though in that case, she really couldn't have a neutral expression. Still, this figure looks good too. I actually own this same shirt, so it's nice to see this character wearing this shirt. And of course, she is the Splatoon 2 Figma of the Inkling, which is nice because she has some updated clothing. And of course, her hair is a little bit different, which is something that came in Splatoon 2. I think this hairstyle was exclusive to that. I might be wrong. Still, I do like this shorter hair. It actually looks pretty good, and it's not going to be as cumbersome as this non-flexible, very hard plastic that is on the regular one. But still, this looks great. The only thing that's different is going to be, of course, the outfit, and of course the ink tank there is a little bit differently styled, which is really nice looking. It actually kind of looks like a water bottle, funny enough. She's even got a final decal on the back of her shirt, and her shoes are similarly rather fresh looking and on point. But let's get into posability. Now, both of these figures have pretty much all the same joints, but we're going to demonstrate on the baseline figure because I think it's important to stress how cumbersome these tentacles can be, being that they're not flexible plastic. Still, they don't get in the way too much. The head can go up and down, which is fine. It can be swiveled and it can roll around as you need it to. The arms, the shoulders are on a ball peg joint, which can roll around. The actual ball peg is right in there, and then the ball is on the shoulder, whereas the peg is inside of the sleeve, which is very nice. It does allow quite a great range of motion, and of course those joints can be swiveled, as well as her elbow is on a hinge joint, which can swivel, and it can go in and out, as well as her hand is on the same type of joint. It can go in and out and swivel about. Additionally, under her shirt, you can see there is a ball joint right there, which will allow her waist to roll quite well. Her legs are similarly on ball joints, and they can roll around as needed, kick in and out, and swivel. Her thigh, strangely enough, is also on a swiveled peg joint, so you can actually twist it about as you need to. Her knee is another hinge, which can go in and out and be swiveled at either side. And finally, her foot can go up and down and swivel just a bit. It is additionally on a hinge, I can assume, but I'm not quite sure. I don't want to break anything, but that actually could be a ball joint in there. I could be wrong, but it does have a good bit of motion there, and it's really not even all that necessary. Finally, her foot even has a little bend to the tip of her toe, which is appreciated because you can do a lot of cool stuff with making her look like she's running and stuff like that. Her ink tank is actually also on a peg ball joint as well. The peg goes into her back, and the ball joint is actually on the tank itself, which allows it to roll around. And you can actually, of course, remove this just as well. And yeah, I didn't do that well, but you can get the peg out there. And like any Figma figure that's worth the money you pay for it, you can rip her hair off, which is a little difficult, and then you can rip her face off. Now, an additional feature to one of these accessories is the face here. As you can see, this is a cold, dead stare, but if you turn it around, you'll see these weird little sockets. And I also got this strange Windex container looking piece here that, goodness, what could that be for? Well, you'll take rod A and put it into slot A, and that will allow you to then move this around. But what would that do? Let's turn it around and see that now it has a crooked eye. Yes, that's right. You can actually plug this in and move the eye around, which is incredibly freaky. They've done this before, but, you know, I guess they felt like they needed to do it again, and that's fine. The only problem I have with these is that sometimes it's hard to get them to do the right thing. Sure, you can make them look straight ahead, but then take a situation like this where you're just trying to make it look straight ahead, and then you have a little bit of extra white on one side. Well, now you have to fine tune that other side and get it just perfect, and then you kind of wind up with a weird stare. Sometimes it's hard to get them right back to zero, but I do appreciate the ability to do that since there is only one faceplate, but still, more faceplates could have just been a nice way to alleviate this issue. And there's an additional face that comes with them. But, Kingu, you might say, those eyebrows are pink, you idiot, it'll look so stupid. Well, that's where you're wrong and you're stupid. No, I'm just kidding, you're not stupid. There's a little tab here where you can pull this out, and then insert another one. And now you'll see that this hollow sunken void will become a pair of orange eyebrows. How awesome and adaptive is that? Then, of course, you take this nightmare of a situation and plug the face back on. What I do like is that the tab that plugs in the eyebrows rests against the back of the hair plate, which allows it to kind of stabilize and even feel a little bit more solid. It's a small detail, but I do appreciate it. Then you can plug the hair back in, and now you've got a very happy Inkling. This is a great face, actually. The only problem I have is that there's only one of these faces, so only one of them could be happy at a time. And now this one kind of already has a somewhat cheeky happiness to its face, but this one's a little bit more crazy, like it's burning down a house or something. Still, I do like the accessory. And speaking of accessories, of course this Figma comes with no shortage of them. The largest accessory being this huge ink roller. It looks pretty good, and surprisingly enough, it even does twist to roll a bit. It's an appreciated detail, and additionally, you can take this handle and unplug it, but you would think that it would swivel over because of the way it looks like there's a hinge, so don't do that, you could break it, and then just plug this back in here, and now they can use it as a weapon and, you know, just roll it around and pick up all the sticky, nasty hair on your desk or something. The good thing about this accessory is that it's not too heavy. This part is the heaviest part, of course, but that is expected. There's probably a bit of a rod inside here, and I'm not sure if it's metal, but that almost looks metal there. There's definitely a rod running through this so that it can roll, and there's even this little nut at the end that looks metal, but I'm pretty sure it's not. But still, this is a good accessory, and it should be able to be held by the characters. This next one I'm a little upset about, and I'm gonna get it out of the way now. These headphones are super iconic, they looked really cool, and right out of the packaging, I put them on the figure's head and they broke immediately. This is incredibly irritating because this is like a hard plastic that I don't feel is very common among these, and it's one of the things that's got me a little worried about this figure. This was a very cheap accessory and it broke with no effort whatsoever. There's little sockets in the ears which allows you to plug them onto the characters, and then you're just supposed to plug the actual headphone into that socket because there's two different ones for the two different hairstyles, this one having little different grooves in it. But unfortunately, I don't see how you're supposed to get the little racks over the ear cups because you'll just break it like I did. So I'm really mad. It might be because it's cold in here, but it's really no excuse. That's really poor quality. This should be a flexible plastic so that they don't break. But rather than continue to complain, let's move on to the next accessory. Everybody loves a nice hat, and this beanie is super nice. The detail on it, all of the texture is really, really well done. The decal on the front looks great, and this little pin is also really cool. It's very nice as far as an accessory goes. It really looks like a hat, and I love it. The only problem I have is that it's this hard plastic again, so it's not flexible, and if it was, it would be easier to get on their heads. The only problem is that you're just kind of relying on gravity to work its magic here, and unfortunately, the hat can be knocked off very easily. And if you push it down too hard, my fear is that this hard plastic on this hard plastic could scratch the figure's hair, of which I do not want to do. This is a very expensive figure. Additionally, there's a cap, a nice snapback cap with some decals on it, some design, and more texture along the sides. It looks really good. There's this weird thing in here, but it doesn't actually plug into anything. You're just supposed to rest it on the head. And it kind of works. Sometimes it fits better than others, but this is going to completely rely on whether or not you're squeezing it to the character's head, and I don't want to scratch this figure. This thing was like $100. That aside, we also have some hands. Figmas usually included hand racks, and this includes a bunch of different hands, allowing them to hold the assorted weapons that they come with. This is great. The only problem is that I feel like there should be 2 racks of both types of hands, because you can only make one character hold, of course, that same weapon at once, because there's only one in each package, but still, I think it's kind of unfair. What if you just wanted to do more with the hand styles on the other character and pose them both together? Again, these figures were not cheap. They should come with everything. Additionally, we have some weapons. The splatter shot is the quintessential item that you will see the Inklings holding on the box, and this is like the standard weapon that you get. It's like a sort of submachine gun, really. Really good detail here. Looks awesome. Looks like a kid's water gun, which it's supposed to, and yeah, I like this a lot. Additionally, we have these Splat Dualies, which were a new addition to Splatoon 2. They're these awesome little dual pistols that you get, which allow your character to dash about, making them more mobile and agile, and these are a great representation of that. Of course, you get 2 because they always hold 2 when they're using this weapon. That's why they're called dualies. And finally, our last weapon is going to be this little water balloon. But of course, since it's Splatoon, this is actually an ink balloon. So yeah, it's just supposed to look like a water balloon, and that's what it is. You throw it, it explodes. That's awesome. Now, in addition to those weapons, we have some effect parts which are much appreciated here. We have an orange ink blast, which will allow it to look like you are shooting ink from the orange splatter shot here. That's nice. Also, we have 2 pink ones, which would allow you to plug them into the dualies. They kind of just plug in there, and it works well enough. They look good, and yeah, now you're getting splatted. And finally, we get these little guys, which are, I think, meant for their feet, but you could additionally plug something like the ink balloon into this and make it look like the ink balloon is blowing up next to somebody, so that's kind of cool. But also, inking the turf in the game is one of the big things, and you could make it so that they're stepping in the ink or something like that, which is a nice effect, so I like it. We're still not done. We actually get 2 of these awesome little squids. They're what the Inklings turn into when you hit the trigger button, which allows them to be far quicker, and they can roll around in the ink rather quickly, as they are, of course, squids. And yeah, I really like this accessory. This is nice. The only thing that's kind of weird is that they're the opposite colors of the characters that you receive in the packaging, which I guess makes sense if you're making them fight the opposing team, but both of these characters are different colors, so you have 4 different colors of Inkling, technically. But whatever, what do I know? And I swear this is the final accessory, but we get these little clear plastic ink splatters, which you can just kind of put on the ground or the desk that you're putting these on, and it'll make the Inkling look like it's walking through some ink. Oh no, I'm in the wrong color ink. Ooh, ah. Strangely enough, there's no ink color for this pink one. You only get red and green, and blue and orange, which makes sense with the orange Inkling, but, you know. Again, what do I know? This ink should be pink, especially if the opposing team was supposed to be this green squid here. Whatever, semantics. But now that we've gotten through everything, what exactly do I think of the figures? Well, they're absolutely amazing. I knew that from the start I was going to really like this release, and I'm really happy to report that I do. I was really hoping for a great figma of the Inkling, and I got 2 instead of 1. The price point is a little bit higher on the DX set, but I think that's absolutely worth it, since you are getting 2 figmas for the price of about 1 3/4 of a figma. So you're not really spending too much more than you would if you just bought 2 figmas normally. With that said, I think that the accessories really do help these things shine. The weapons are awesome and incredibly accurate representations of the ones from the games. They can be a little bit difficult to pose with some of these accessories, only because some of them are a little heavier, or the limited hands don't allow them to really mingle too much, but I think that ultimately they did something really amazing with this release. It's incredibly game accurate, and of course that's important to people like me who are getting this because they're huge fans of the game. The only main criticisms I can give is that yes, the headset did break really easily for the one, and I'm looking into getting those replaced, but other than that, really not too much. QC errors are almost not here at all, and ultimately the thing is pretty solid, so I really can't complain other than the fact that the headphones broke, but that could have potentially been my fault partly. The other problem I have is that they don't come with enough hands to do the same things with both of them. I wanted to make them both do squid fingers, but I could really only get one to do it at once. I would love to see them release another Inkling, maybe a set of boys, and then with that, they could add all kinds of accessories that could commingle with both sets of the girl figures and the boy figures. But that's wishful thinking. Who knows if they'll ever touch this series again. Still, I can be hopeful, and ultimately, I would love to see even accessory packs for these figmas because honestly, they really could do so much. Finally, the number. That's what most people come here for, so I'm going to say that the Splatoon DX figmas are going to get a solid 9 out of 10 for me. I really can't complain about too much here. They're great figures, and I'm really happy to have them in my collection. Good Smile really outdid themselves as usual, and I'm going to definitely have these figures displayed on my desk probably. And with that, that's going to complete the review. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this, please make sure to like the video. What do you think about these figmas? Do you agree with my rating, or do you think that they're worse? Why don't you drop a comment below and let me know what you think. I'm also going to link a video on screen, and even if you have seen it, please make sure to check it out because it does help the channel if you click that video. As usual, thanks so much for watching, have an awesome weekend, and keep on collecting.